What's up, A to Z Sports Titan Game Day Live here at the Mainstay. And it feels like it's been a while since we've done one of these as the Titans are coming off of their bye week, a much-needed bye week as the Titans, 8-4, are hosting the 2-10 Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of drama going around this Jags team. We'll talk about the Urban Meyer rumors here in a little bit, but we'll get to a lot of what's going on with this Titans-Jags game. And really one key factor that is going to determine the outcome of this football game as the Titans, 8-4, try to snap this two-game losing streak. Austin Stanley, Zach Bingham, A to Z Sports, here live from the Mainstay, just 2 blocks away from Nissan Stadium where this Titans-Jags game is taking place. As always, our Titan Game Day Live pregame show is brought to you by NashvillePowersports.com. Check them out for your brand new custom golf carts at NashvillePowersports.com and BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app. Use our code ATOZ Sports. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first bet after your first deposit. And always, as well, Mill Creek Beer, 2-for-1 drafts here at the Mainstay. Zach, welcome in. Hope your Sunday morning is off to a good start.
Yeah, well, I'm ready to see some football. We had a week off with the bye week, so it has been a long time. But what is this Titans team going to do? Are they going to score more than 13 points? Are they going to lay down, or are they going to come to play against a 2-win Jags team, a divisional opponent, a team in which they should thrash? Can they put it together for the next 5 games? And it starts today at home. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, yeah.
You can throw the ball, you can run the ball, you can do whatever you need to do, but the Titans need to win this game to stay in the upper echelon of this AFC race in which they're chasing the Patriots, but a lot of other teams are chasing them. So they got to get a win today against the Jags.
Yes, and the Colts on a bye week, like the Titans were able to move from 3rd in the AFC up to 2nd in the AFC on their bye week. You don't want to drop a game to the Jags and allow the Colts on a bye week to gain ground on you in the AFC South. So that key number between Titans wins and Colts combined losses is still at 3. The Titans need a win today to make that number 2 as we inch deeper into the season and closer to the playoff push. So, Zach, let's dive into it. Julio Jones is back. That's a good thing. Rashaan Evans on defense is also back. No Bud Dupree, no A.J. Brown, no David Long, no Zach Cunningham yet. So the team feels like it's getting healthier, but again, like turnovers are the main thing that has hurt this football team the last couple of weeks. And by the way, we'll dive into this Derrick Henry report from Ian Rappaport from this morning more during the week. But Derrick Henry looks to be on the earlier side of his injury timeline than the latter. So maybe Derrick Henry is coming around the corner as well. But Zach, they've got to win this game still with a lesser roster than what we are used to seeing from this Titans team. So what are you looking for the Titans to bounce back and get a win today?
So you named a bunch of different players.
Jack Rabbit's also out, by the way.
On the Titans side of the football. But that is not my factor for the Titans to win today. My factor actually comes from, and we heard at the end of this week, a disgruntled Mike Vrabel. This is a Mike Vrabel game. Head coach going up against a 2-win team that is in the bottom of the league. You're at home. You absolutely should win this game, and it's about discipline. You brought up the fumbles and the mistakes over the last 2 losses against, well, at home against Houston and then on the road against New England. Those 2 fumbles cost them a chance to get back into the game.
No doubt.
And to actually, make a push to beat the Patriots a couple of weeks ago. Houston, you knew it was going to be a torrential downpour. You knew that you needed to get a lead early. You didn't. You played catch up, and Ryan Tannehill was in a bad spot with nobody to catch the ball. He threw 4 picks, and they lost. Mike Vrabel has got to get his team focused. And I'm talking about from the get. If you're upset about media members asking you about Zach Cunningham and which you claimed off waivers, you need to pull your britches up and start coaching your team correctly, because the last 2 games in which you've lost, they have not been disciplined, and that's on the head coach. So if Mike Vrabel can come out, hone that energy and that aggression and that anger into his team, going out and beating Urban Meyer and that other team across the sideline, I think Mike Vrabel, this is a Mike Vrabel game. Because you
So
can't,
what is that?
you can't get upset at what the media says during the week and lay an egg to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, I agree. What does a Mike Vrabel game look like to you? Like, what does that mean on the field? I understand what you're saying, but what does that look like?
Controlling from the offensive side of the ball. We have seen in different spurts, all three sides play really good football against the LA Rams on prime time. We saw the defense step up, intercept passes, score touchdowns. That's the kind of mentality and mindset and play that needs to happen on the field. And offensively, it's about control. Opening drives, this team has been brutally bad.
Bad. Yeah, I've got the stats for that. The Titans only have 10 points on their opening drive combined all season. That's only 2 scoring drives. Of their 12 opening drives, they've got 7 punts, 5 3-and-outs.
That's bad
coaching. And 2 interceptions on these opening drives.
The first 15 plays are scripted.
Yeah.
That goes to Mike Vrabel getting his offensive coordinator, Todd Downing, focused. Look, I'm fired up this morning because the Titans need to win. This is one of their best opportunities to make a Super Bowl run. They're good players. They're great players, are going to get healthy, but they have to sustain while they're out and not 100%. Julio Jones is not 100%, but he is playing. That is a key.
Well, I mean, but we don't know what his percentage is. You can assume that.
I can't assume based on what we've seen this week in practice and coming off of IR the first game. He's not. It doesn't mean that he can't eventually get back to 100%. But Austin, he hadn't been 100% all year. I mean, you had maybe a game in Seattle, maybe a game early on, but ever since he hurt that hamstring against Indianapolis and Nissan Stadium,
Week 3,
he hasn't been 100%. He will help this team, but this is Mike Vrabel's focus on the division-leading AFC South Tennessee Titans coming in here to take care of business.
I agree that this is absolutely a mental game for the Titans. They are better than the Jags. The Jags are in disarray, and we'll talk about Urban Meyer rumors and what Urban Meyer confirmed to Jay Glazer earlier this morning, which I thought was pretty funny. But it's a mental game. It's Todd Downing not getting too cute in the red zone because we've seen the Titans with Tannehill and these cast of characters around him that are subpar march up and down the field against the Texans and the Patriots, but come up short in the red zone, kick field goals, or turn the ball over in the red zone. They've got to stick with their mental focus in those situations. And then for Dontrell Hilliard and Dante Foreman, who fumbled last week, they have to hang on to the ball because they've got plenty of opportunity to cut up this Jags defense again. And then for Ryan Tannehill, he's got to get back to center, right? Because we've seen Tannehill without Derrick Henry have a little bit of that forcing it, kind of trying. Is he trying too hard to make a play? Is he uncomfortable in the pocket? He's got to get back to center. And I think for the offense, it's a mental game. I'm curious to see how Todd Downing comes out and scripts it because they've got to score points early and not allow the Jags to hang around. Because the 2 bad losses the Titans had this year, they allowed the Texans and the Jets to hang around from not taking care of business early. They can't let that happen today because the Jags are a desperate team.
Titan Game Day Live, we're broadcasting live from the Mainstay right across the street from Nissan Stadium. The cool part about what we do in streaming, a lot of people streaming actually in the stadium, watching this pregame show, getting ready for Titans Jags. I've said my most important factor, we're going to ask the people online what their most important factor is for a Titans win over the Jacksonville Jaguars to take one step closer to the playoffs. Getting a healthier Derrick Henry back will help later on this season. A.J. Brown, also a key contributor. But Julio Jones comes back today with, let's just face it, a lot to prove.
No doubt.
He's got to prove that he is healthy enough to play, that he's not going to go down with another hamstring injury and go to the sidelines and not be able to help this football team. And for Ryan Tannehill, I mean, Julio Jones is he is an amazing NFL football player. We feel like Ryan Tannehill has been working with kind of mediocre guys, practice squad guys that have had to elevate their level of play, and they haven't done it the last couple of weeks.
Sure, so let's ask you guys, what's the most important factor for a Titans win over the Jags? But let me remind you, this pregame show live from the Mainstay is brought to you by Nashville Power Sports and NashvillePowersports.com. If you're looking for a custom-made golf cart, there's only one place to go in the mid-state. That's NashvillePowersports.com, locally owned and operated in Columbia, and they've got everything in stock. so they can customize any aspect of the golf cart for your home, for your personal use, for your family to dominate the neighborhood, or for whatever your business might need this souped-up golf cart for. So 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they can do any customizable option for you. Color scheme, when we are broadcasting live from Mill Creek Brewing for Titans away games, there's a Nashville Power Sports golf cart there in their tap room in Nolensville. So check them out, NashvillePowersports.com.
A to Z Sports, the question that we've posed to our audience is, what is the one key factor for the Titans to get a win over the Jacksonville Jaguars? Jamel comes in and says, it's Ryan Tannehill. It's simply the quarterback. Randy comes in, special teams has got to come up big.
Let me focus on the special teams thing real quick, because that's a good point. Because in the Patriots game, the Titans were in that game, right? Like until late. They were in the game for 3 quarters.
I'd say 2.5.
Okay. And deep in the third quarter, because the defense was forcing field goals. But anyway, so they were only down by 3 at halftime. And what happened? On the opening kickoff of each half, the Titans had a big-time penalty to back their offense up at the 11-yard line to start the game, and to allow the Patriots to have a big kick return plus a face mask to basically get 1 first down away from field goal territory. So you have to be clean on special teams. They had a penalty on a punt. They ended up being a 31-yard swing against the Patriots 2 weeks ago. So I agree with that, Randy. You have to be clean on special teams. And when you're playing practice squad and backup players on offense and defense, it means your special teams are a lot more thin, which means you're going to have a lot more mental errors on teams.
Well, and we got to stop talking about mental errors with this football team.
Well, I get why they've had mental errors, because they played 86 guys.
Well, Mike Vrabel, he comes to the party and says how he focuses on technique and discipline, smart, tough, physical football players, and they're not playing that way. And it doesn't matter. Those are all excuses of who's in the lineup. Guys need to focus on their job, and that's why I put it on the coaching staff to make sure today that you don't have those mishaps that are so impactful to what your offense, you're hurting your offense and your defense, right? And that cannot happen, and give opportunities to a lesser opponent like the Jags and the Texans and the Jets in the past.
No doubt. So my main factor for the Titans to beat the Jags is they can't have these multi-turnover games. Like, if you get one, all right, if you get one turnover,
so you're willing to give them one mistake.
If you have one turnover, like, that happens, the ball bounces funny. You never know how things work out.
What if it's a bad read by Tannehill like we saw in Houston?
Again,
Are you okay
every interception has its own story. Ryan Tannehill can't throw another pick, right? And I'm not trying to forgive interceptions here, but I'm saying, like, I will afford you the leeway of having one turnover, because you never know how things happen. But you can't just have these turnovers become contagious, because that's what's happened against the Texans. 5 turnovers. I feel like the count. 1, 2, like 4 interceptions from Tannehill, then Chester Rogers screws it up on a punt. Those are mental mistakes that you can't allow to happen. When Dontrell Hilliard has a fumble, that should say, hey, Deontay Foreman, you can't fumble because your teammate just did. So wake up. But they allowed them to become contagious. Overall, 9 turnovers in the last 2 games. So I'll give you one. I'll give you one on a possible fluke where I won't kill you. But if you got 2 turnovers or more, this thing is becoming a bug, like the injuries, and you got to nip it, and you hope the bye week could have done that for them. So my key factor is eliminate the multi-turnovers. You can't allow for that stuff to happen.
I think every Titans fan agrees that was a much-needed bye week at that particular time in the season. Refocus, re-energize, refuel, and get back to what Titans football was early on in the season. Before we move over and focus on the Jags problems, which are comical, which we'll dive into before we get to our predictions. Austin, Julio Jones gets back on the field. What do you expect from number 2 that has been haggled by injuries throughout the course of the year? They sat him down. They put him on IR finally. Yep. They let the hamstring heal. He and the coaching staff and the medical staff have cleared him to say he's ready to go. And I quote from the report from Ian Rappaport, ready for the stretch of the season. Not just today, but the stretch of the season. What does he do today for this team?
So it's interesting because Julio missed 4 weeks, right? He had 3 games plus the bye. So that's a good thing. They used that bye week to get an extra week of rest for Julio. And it seemed like he went out there and practiced with high effort on Wednesday. And then he was out there on Thursday with the same type of high effort. So there was no Wednesday setback from having a lot of work done on the practice field. So I think earlier in the week, I would have said Julio would have a small route tree, like a little tree seedling, right? Like he might run a couple, quick routes, nothing too far down the field to stretch that hamstring potentially. Maybe some simple, easier route concepts to not put too much pressure. But the fact that he got all that work done in the week of practice makes me feel like he's ready to go.
Over or under, I don't know what his BetMGM line is. I would be curious to see that. I would probably set it at, he's the only guy they got. They're not getting anything
I looked
from
I looked at the props this morning on BetMGM, and I was like, man, like who do I anytime touchdown? You're like,
I stay
Foreman,
away.
Julio, Hilliard.
Today's one of those games you stay away from, but they're not getting any of their production from their tight end. I'd be curious to see the over-under for Julio Jones. It's just such a mystery because if it is right around maybe 50 yards, I don't know, because I don't know how much they're going to use him. Tannehill, he's got to be tired of throwing to guys that, again, are practice squad level players. And you can only do so much with Dez Fitzpatrick and Nick Westbrook-Ikea. You can only do so much. And now you don't want to disrupt Julio Jones, but you need him. He is a factor in this game because he's the best weapon that they have.
Well, Zach, BetMGM has made you a smart guy, right? I would say that you nailed it because Julio's over-under for receiving yards on the BetMGM app is 50.5. and both
Vegas action right
both
there.
Over and under prices are minus 115.
That's one I stay away from.
Yeah, you don't touch that.
I don't know.
No.
But I will say, if Julio goes over that mark, the Titans win this football game based on what Jacksonville is. And that's where it leads us into now.
Well, Julio's receptions are 4.5. His longest reception is 20 and a half.
Let the offense settle in. I would take a break on a Julio prop this.
So what do you expect from Julio? Like I answered do you expect him to have an impact? Is he a red zone guy today? Does he get in the end zone?
That's kind of where I would go. Red zone, maybe go up for a fade, use his body against a lesser corner to create space on a slant. He still can run good routes. So I think he probably will be on a pitch count, but
and he didn't play the Jags earlier this year. He was out.
He sat
AJ
down.
was in on that limited role, but
and Taylor brings up the headache number that over the course of Julio Jones, and it also is based on a restructure. Amy Adams-Strunk, the owner of the Tennessee Titans, has cut a check to Julio Jones this season, $15 million. Oh, that one hurts. For what he's given you, which is under 300 yards receiving.
No, he's got over 300. 336.
336 is not worth $15 million.
In just 6 games. So I'll go ahead and say this. Julio's only gone over 50 twice this season. 59 against Buffalo on Monday night where he made that circus catch. It was at 48. So 48 of his 59 yards came on that one catch. And then obviously the 128 against Seattle in a big-time helping effort there.
I like what Tyree has brought up here watching live streaming. 6 catches for 57. It gets him involved in the game.
I don't think that happens.
I think that would get a Titans win because that's enough production that the Jags have got to pay attention to him. That's the Titans over the last several weeks. They haven't had a distraction. Nobody is keying on Anthony Ferguson. Nobody is keying on Dez Fitzpatrick down the field. Nobody's keying on the running backs either.
Right.
So now, if Julio gets involved early, I think it keeps the defense a little bit more on it.
No, I agree with that. I agree. All right, it is eSports here live. I go under with the Julio Jones just for the record there on the BetMGM app. So does the Urban Meyer rumors kill or fuel the Jags today versus the Titans? I think it's interesting. So does the Urban Meyer rumors kill or fuel the Jags today? Don't forget, live here at the Mainstay, just 2 blocks away from Nissan Stadium, Mill Creek Beer, 2 for 1 on draft throughout the entire Titan Game Day live. So go check that out here if you're at the Mainstay. Mill Creek Beer, great product there, 2 for 1 on draft. So the rumors, right? The fact that And I'll say this, I'll update it. Jay Glazer this morning on Fox said that he talked to Urban specifically. Urban Meyer denied the Marvin Jones rumor, but he confirmed the fact that he called his coaches losers. And I mean, he didn't say, Jay Glazer didn't say losers. That was confirmed.
Did he hire these guys?
Yes, because he's the head coach. But Urban's explanation to Jay Glazer was, I always challenge my coaches and I'm always hard on my coaches. And like, I get that, but you can't flat out call your coaches losers. There's a different way to go about it. But regardless.
The analogy that I was going to say is that's the type of stuff you don't say directly to your coaches. You go home to, I was going to say, your wife,
go to Shelly
and vent and say, God, these coaches are losers, but you don't tell them to their face. But I don't know how much trust that relationship has based on the earlier situation.
Right. Yeah. So do these rumors kill the Jags today, or do they help fuel the Jags?
I don't think they fuel them. So we talked about what happened with him in the Ohio State pullover at the bar after the Thursday night matchup against Cincinnati. He stayed around in Ohio and got himself into some trouble because Urban learned that everybody has a cell phone with a video camera on it.
Yep.
They played, I believe, the next week, the Titans.
That's right.
So it didn't affect him then.
Well, because that happened after it was a Thursday night game. It was a Friday in Columbus, and so they played the 10-day mini-bye.
Right, the 10-day mini-bye, but it didn't affect him. The Titans ended up winning 37-19. The game was closer than that score, but the Titans won the game handily. I don't think that it fuels this team. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are a bad football team. Trevor Lawrence is not the same quarterback he was at Clemson. They got problems with James Robinson, who's one of their best players, but was benched recently. And so Trevor Lawrence came out and called his coaching staff out about there.
That's where I think it kills. I think the Urban Meyer rumors kill the Jags today, not fuel them, because of the quarterback's involvement in the rumors. If the quarterback wasn't involved, and if the quarterback was a veteran, I think maybe he can fuel his team around him. But I don't think that's the case with Trevor Lawrence at this point in his career.
Yeah, look, the Titans are 8-4. They should absolutely beat the 2-win Jags. The Jags are 2-10, and they have problems from top to bottom on their franchise. You can't lose this game. Mike Vrabel cannot lose this game.
Especially, all right, how many points does it take to beat the Jags today? Because here's the Jags points they've scored. 7, 14, 10, 17, 9, 7. They got one win, 9-6 over Buffalo in that 6-game stretch where they're averaging like 13 points a game.
And their defense was opportunistic against Josh Allen in that game. They sacked him. They pressured him. They intercepted him.
That was just the Josh Allen game.
Here's where I'm at with Jacksonville, though. That's their problem. The Titans are only scoring 13 points a game in their last 2 games.
Yeah, but the Titans are racking up yards. The Titans are averaging about 400 yards in those 2 losses.
Nothing to show for it.
No, again, and because it's 9 turnovers and turnovers on downs and an intentional grounding on Tannehill before the half. That's why the Titans have had like 12 possessions the last 2 weeks, not ended punts or scores. They've been ending in turnovers on downs and turnovers. Like the goal is every drive end in a kick, whether it's a punt, a field goal, or an extra point. And the fact that the Titans have had 12 drives the last 2 weeks end in non-kicks, that's why they've only put up 13 points.
And you posed the question, how many points do the Titans need to kind of get to that level to say, hey, they're going to beat this team? The chat online watching us streaming on Facebook and YouTube saying 21-17, right around that range. So if you get to that point, they feel that you can win. I would probably set that a little bit higher than what it is, but I don't know if the Titans can score points. As you said, they have yards, but they have nothing to show for it. So they got to find a way to get to the end zone. And I believe getting a lead early and playing their game is key. The problem is they struggle at that. They don't get leads early anymore ever since Derrick Henry went down. So they got to find a new way to win.
They rarely got leads with Derrick Henry this season. The Titans have been playing from behind a lot early because they haven't been able to score or do much at all in the first quarter. So we're counting down. We're a few minutes away from kickoff here in Nashville at the Mainstay between the Titans and the Jags. It is prediction time, Zach. Everybody get your scores ready. The Titans are an 8.5 point favorite, 8.5 point favorite at BetMGM. Don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Use our code right there on the banner, ATOZ Sports. And after your first deposit, your first bet is risk-free up to $1,000. It's a great way to jumpstart your bankroll. So Titans minus 8.5, hosting the Jags. They covered the 4.5, the first meeting in Jacksonville. So the spread's nearly doubled from that meeting. So prediction times, Zach, I'll let you start. Or I'll let you go to the comments.
Well, we've got a couple of comments. Matthew says 28-17. Clayton goes 35-14. I think, we obviously have a lot of Titans fans that interact and chat with us on our live streams. So I do take that into account, but I think that they're right. I think that the Titans win today. I think it's 31-17, and I think they cover the spread. This is a prove-it game. This is a prove-it game not only to the league, but more importantly, this is a prove-it game for themselves, that they can get back on track and make this playoff push. They got Pittsburgh on the horizon, the 49ers on the horizon, the Dolphins. These are all winnable games.
Yeah.
But they got to prove that they can win without Derrick Henry, without A.J. Brown, and they do it effectively their way. And we talked early on in this pregame show what their way is. I think the Titans get it done. I think they cover the spread. 31-17 is my prediction.
I don't think it's that high scoring. Look, it's a gorgeous day out in Nashville, so I think you're going to be able to, the sun's shining. It's a little bit over 40 degrees. You got the crisp in the air here on December 12th. But I think it's lower scoring. I'm going to go Titans 23, Jags 13. 23-13. I just don't think that, as I was going through the prop bets earlier, like I mentioned, who's scoring touchdowns? Who's scoring touchdowns for the Titans? I think they get in the end zone twice, but the lack of red zone weapons, I don't really see them scoring a lot of touchdowns. I see Randy Bullock hitting 3 field goals. They score twice and get in the end zone there. 23-13, Titans beat the Jags.
They have to score with their players beyond the red zone. Big plays, right?
Well, but
you know the seam route by Nick Westbrook-Ikena? Those type plays need to score, right?
Yes, they do score when it's AJ and Derrick Henry, but not when it's NWI and Foreman.
Well, but you're playing against a bad Jags defense, right? So there's give and take there. I get your point, but that's where they have to score. And they got to run the football effectively.
Here's your red zone scores. It's Tannehill on runs.
There you go.
It's Michael Pruitt and Jeff Swain. Those are your red zone touchdown scores.
That is what it has been.
Do 2 of those 3 guys get touchdowns today? I think, yeah.
And
probably.
look, the Titans don't like the Jags, and the Jags don't like the Titans. And Orlando brings up a good point. This is an opportunity to really embarrass Urban Meyer. You can really take advantage of all the bad publicity that he's gotten and hand it to him. 31-17 would do that.
I agree, but I think that's too many points unless the Titans defense chips in, which is what they did the first time these 2 teams met in Jacksonville. Kickoff is coming up. We'll be right back here at halftime. Thanks again to our sponsors, NashvillePowersports.com, for your brand new custom-made golf carts for your home or for your business. Don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Still a couple minutes, live betting action at BetMGM. Use our code ATOZ Sports. Risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first deposit and your first bet. Also, Mill Creek Brewing Company here, 2-for-1 drafts at the Mainstay. We will see you right here for the Mainstay at halftime. Enjoy the first half.